suppose I first met Terri Hooley in the early 80s when I was going to get records at his first record shop, Good Vibrations, in Great Victoria Street. And Good Vibes was located above a health food store in Great Victoria Street called Sassafras. And the shop itself had a kind of mystique about it because it sold all these exotic spices and health foods, whole foods, all that. There were like jars of spices and cinnamon sticks in the window. And my early age thought this was like drugs, this was dope or something, you know, these jars of cinnamon sticks, you know. And Terri had the shop upstairs, and people went to Good Vibrations because Terri was able to get records that other record shops just simply didn't stock. You know, you could get some stuff on labels such as the Crass label or Rough Trade, which other shops didn't stock, you know. So you would go there to get your records by Crass or your records by Patrick Fitzgerald, Cabaret Voltaire, all those kind of underground bands of the late 70s, early 80s, you know, and mute records, that kind of stuff. And there was also a real buzz about the shop anytime you were in, because Terri had just recently started his own record label, Good Vibrations. He was releasing records by the likes of Belfast bands such as The Outcasts, Rudy, Roofrex, and there was always a lot of activity in the shop. People coming and going, bands coming and going, leaving amps off, borrowing guitars, whatever. There was all this kind of activity, and it was a kind of friendly shop as well. And as well as being able to get records that weren't available elsewhere, you would call in just for a bit of crack or to have a chat with Terri. Terri was always a very friendly guy, you know, and he was always bending over backwards to help people, kids that were setting up bands. You know, he would do his best to get them gigs or to try and get them a record contract, maybe bring stuff out by him on Good Vibrations, you know. And it felt like a scene if there was something happening, you know. So that's why people went there, and that's how I first got to know Terri Hooley. And then after that, you know, he's been doing stuff like reggae discos and that kind of thing for years, and they were always pretty well attended, you know. So, and everybody, I suppose, got to like Terri and looked upon him as a sort of father figure, if you like, you know, of the sort of rock scene in Belfast in its early embryonic days then, you know.
And what sort of character was Terri?
He wasn't, you know, he was a very friendly character, you know. He was always willing, as I say, to help people. He wanted to get things going. He was always a doer, you know. I think that's been borne out over the years, you know. One point I think he sold his entire collection of reggae music for a local charity, you know, and that's the kind of guy he is, you know. He's not a materialistic guy. If he had went the materialistic route, I think he could have been making a lot of money by now, but you know, he didn't go that route. He didn't go the route, and he's very, even today, talk about, you know, the kind of influence of the corporate world on rock music, you know, turning rebellion into money, as the Clash put it. You know, Terri isn't that kind of person, you know. He's in it for the music. He's in it because he enjoys working with bands, working with musicians, and helping people, you know, get it together.
So would you say he's been influential in the whole scene in Belfast?
I would say so, yeah, I would say so, because I don't think you would have the kind of scene that you have in Belfast without the likes of Terri Hooley, you know. I mean, as I say, he's always been willing to help. He's always been willing to stick his neck out, set things up, set gigs up, help bands get formed, you know, help out whatever way he's at, and he's still doing it today, you know. Anytime.
No. So, you recently interviewed Terri. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, recently, a while back, I had the pleasure of interviewing Terri Hooley for a music supplement I produced for Fortnite Educational Trust, and I made the mistake of agreeing to meet him in the Crown Bar in Belfast. So I met him there, and we did the interview over copious amounts of pints, you know. And after the interview, which I ran out of tape after the first 90 minutes, and actually the most interesting stuff started coming out after the first 90 minutes, because Terri was getting a bit inebriated, and that's when the good stories were coming out, you know. But I was able to remember some of them anyway, you know. But after the Crown, Terri insisted on going back to his new shop in Hard Street in Belfast for another drink and to listen to some music, you know. So we went back to the record shop and had a few more drinks, listened to some music. Terri was claiming all over the shelves, you know, getting these obscure reggae records out for me, listening, saying, you gotta listen to this, you gotta hear this one, you gotta hear this, you know. He was like a child in a toy shop or a sweet shop, you know. And but eventually he actually passed out, and the door of the shop was locked, so I took the keys out of his pocket, opened the door, went out, closed the door and threw the keys back to the letterbox, thought he'd be alright. He would sleep it off, wake up in the shop the next morning. Apparently after I left the shop, Terri then woke up and decided he wanted to listen to this really obscure reggae track which he had on the very top shelf in the shop. So he got the stepladders out, climbed up the shelf and fell off the steps, landed on the counter of the shop and almost broke his back. After that he passed out again, and the rest of the staff turned up the next morning, opened the shop and found Terri lying in agony on the floor. You know, so that's what the sort of night out with Terri Hooley amounts to, you know, so be careful with this guy, you know. Well, hopefully the music scene in Belfast will continue to grow, expand and develop. There's a lot of bands happening in Belfast at the minute. There's still a lot of music. I mean, it's still not the centre of the universe in terms of the music industry. There's a lot of talent here. Unfortunately, in the past, a lot of the talent has had to go abroad, to go to London or wherever to make it. Now, while there isn't, say, the opportunity to really make it from Belfast, there are centres for the music industry a little bit nearer to home. For example, Dublin, where there's a lot more happening, you know. But we do have recording studios here. Terry's recently relaunched his record label, Good Vibrations, and I mean, there's a lot of energy. There always has been a lot of energy here. There's been a lot of talented musicians, talented bands, and I mean, hopefully it'll continue to grow and develop, as I say.
And the best record you ever bought from Terri Hooley?
Fleetwood Mac Rumours. 180 gram vinyl.
I just want to know that for yourself. Okay, John.
Who have you been loving since I've been gone? A long tall man with a red coat on. Good for nothing, baby, you've been doing me wrong. Who have you been loving since I've been gone? Who have you been loving since I've been gone? A long tall man with a red coat on. Well, good for nothing, baby, you've been doing me wrong. Who have you been loving since I've been gone? Who have you been loving since I've been gone? Who's that playing around with you? A real cool cat with eyes of blue. Well, trifling, baby, are you being untrue? Who's that fooling around with you? Who's that fooling around with you? Somebody saw you at the break of day, dining and dancing in the cabaret. He was long and tall, he had plenty of cash. He had a red Cadillac and a black moustache. He held your hand and he sang you a song. Who you been loving since I've been gone? Who you been loving since I've been gone? With you, a real cool cat with eyes of blue. Trifling, baby, are you being untrue? Who's that playing around with you? Who's that playing around with you? Somebody saw you at the break of day, dining and dancing in the cabaret. He was long and tall, he had plenty of cash. He had a red Cadillac and a black moustache. He held your hand and he sang you a song. Well, baby, who you been loving since I've been gone? 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 Well, who have you been loving? Well, I've been gone. Who you you been loving since I've been gone? Who you been loving since I've been gone? Since I've been gone, who you been loving?